Are you feeling stressed out and anxious every single day as a clinician? Well, it's probably because you're drinking the imperfect cocktail all day long, and that is perfectionism and self-judgment. Let's dive into this episode where I tell you how I got onto a healthier alternative. And this cocktail will help you sustain and live in excellence. So let's dive in. I'm so excited to announce that in the next few weeks, I'll be releasing the Endo Training Companion Kit and Course in collaboration with Plan B Dental. This is basically your endo training in a box, ready to go, with a full 4CE course that's attached to it. More details to come, but just wanted to get you excited for the Endo Training Companion Kit and Course, which is on its way to the marketplace very soon. Welcome back to On the Cusp. I'm your host, Dr. Brett Gilbert, excited to bring you another short solo episode. Now, this episode is all about the imperfect cocktail. Now, when I talk about this cocktail, I promise you as a clinician or a student, anyone in this professional healthcare world, you know what I'm talking about, and you're drinking it. It's a cocktail, and it's really an imperfect mix of two very specific afflictions, mindsets, sort of ways of being. And that is one, perfectionism, and two, self-judgment. So let's put those two together and see what we get. Because in my opinion, this is a lot of the source of the pain and the suffering, the stress, the anxiety, the apprehension of our careers is perfectionism and self-judgment, all trying to exist together. So let's just break down perfectionism, because I think it's something I certainly know is a disease that I have. It's something I've battled my whole life and certainly my career, because I do believe that, as an endodontist working in millimeters and, wanting everything to just look so perfect and wanting everything to be perfectly clean and wanting the patients to be perfectly pain-free and wanting to run a perfect schedule where I'm never running late and wanting all the conversations to go perfectly and all the payments to come through perfectly, and my team and I to get along perfectly. Well, as we well know, perfect doesn't exist. I hate to burst the bubble, but let's burst it. Let's just break it. Let's squash it, because this pursuit of perfection is an endless and never achieving pursuit. Nothing in this world is perfect. And so what we can accept, though, is that everything in this world is perfectly imperfect. So when we are so focused on being perfect all the time and failing, not because we're not good enough, not because we're not worthy enough, not because we haven't studied hard enough or worked hard enough or earned enough, it's just simply a non-existent attainment. Nothing in this world is perfect, but everything is perfectly imperfect. So this is something I've had to really work on in my own career. Now, 22 years on in private practice, limited to endodontics in a big metro area, with my reputation on the line every day, liability on the line every day, human responsibility to the person in the chair every day. And it took me a long time to recognize that me trying to be perfect wasn't helping anyone. It certainly wasn't helping my patients, because ultimately that pursuit with an endless effort and a zero end reward only just makes you tired, only makes you more stressed, only makes you more anxious, only makes you more apprehensive about even waking up in the morning to go to the office. So perfectionism doesn't help my patient. It certainly doesn't help me internally. The inner chatter, that voice in your head telling you, gosh, this isn't good enough. I can't believe I can't get this perfect. So I want to just be clear that in my experience, and I'll give credit to a gentleman named Sergio Rubinstein, who once gave a lecture at an evening study club talk, just another dental meeting that I went to, but he flashed up on the slide. He said, perfection is not the goal, but excellence is. And so what I ask of you, as I've asked of myself, is to consider that rolling through your day with the expectation and the goal of being excellent, now that is attainable, because excellence is about trying your best, being as focused as you can, giving it your best effort, being excellent in all of that. And in many of my posts, you'll hear me talk about treating patients in excellence, or providing the right type of armamentarium so that you can perform in excellence. So let's replace perfectionism with excellence, because that's something we can attain. And it's something we can carry through all of our lives. You can be in excellence in every single thing that you do, even in the way you sleep. So perfectionism, an endless, tiring, exhausting pursuit of emptiness. Whereas excellence is something you can really put your effort, your mindset, your spirit behind and be successful every single day. Because excellence is not perfectionism, but perfectionism is an endless goal that's never achieved. So perfectionism, excellence. Let's make that shift. But let's go back to the perfectionism that we're in, right? Because it's kind of a swirling spiral. And now let's look at the other affliction, self-judgment. It's impossible not to judge yourself as a dentist or a clinician who's putting out some type of surgical outcome or visual outcome like we do in dentistry, a functional outcome in the way that the patient feels after the treatment. If you're doing some type of surgery and just the rehabilitation and ultimately the healing, what does that wind up looking like? Does it leave the patient in good health, in good functioning, good cheer, right? Or do they become debilitated from it? So we have to recognize that it's really hard not to judge ourselves. And in some ways, that's healthy. Because let's be honest, in our practices, there's really only one police person. That's us. We have to make sure that when we look at that image, when we look at that outcome, when we look at that 3D imaging, that we recognize that we have a good outcome. And if it's not, then we say to ourselves, well, what could I have done better? And what will I do better next time? So when you're functioning in this world of trying to be perfect and judging yourself on every single thing you do, no wonder we're pulling our hair out. No wonder dentistry is sunken into suffering in silence. No wonder we have so many dentists that want to leave the profession. And I single out dentists in this situation because I know that's the primary audience I have. Although I feel that clinicians of all disciplines, really, we all are living the same existence. So you can relate to this as well. But it's no wonder that we're pulling our hair out. It's no wonder we're exhausted. It's because ultimately we're chasing this perfectionism, which is unattainable. And we're judging ourselves along the way, which means that if we can never achieve the goal of perfection and we're judging ourselves, we're constantly judging ourselves. And so I want to be clear. Let's eliminate perfectionism. It's simply unnecessary. Let's replace it with excellence. And let's judge what we're doing in the terms and the mindset of how can I get better? What can I learn? What can I do differently next time? As opposed to the other side of self-judgment, which is I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills. I'm not as good as so-and-so down the street. I really probably shouldn't even be doing this. Everyone else is better than me. So there are realms within these diseases, and I'll put perfectionism and self-judgment both as a disease, one that I suffer from. And so 22 years on with a lot of personal growth, as we've discussed in this podcast, a lot of coaching, a lot of emotional intelligence training, a lot of studying about the higher levels of life beyond the surface, beyond the commercial, beyond the material, and ultimately winding up in a place where I can see the light, that I can be excellent every single day based on my effort, my attitude, and how much I care. And I can judge what I'm doing in the light of learning, in the light of building a foundation of lessons of which can guide me through the next procedure, right? The next interaction, the next time I'm running a little bit late, so that I can start to control my inner environment. So instead of it being I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy enough, it becomes I just learned something valuable and I feel more prepared for next time. So the imperfect cocktail, perfectionism mixed with self-judgment, is basically taking yourself, stressing yourself to the max, and winding up burnt out. If we replace that with excellence as a goal, mixed with the good of self-judgment, right? The learning, the understanding that lessons come in different ways at different times. and using those, taking them as golden nuggets of learning so that I know what happened in that last situation. And because of that, I know that I'll be better in the next situation. So the imperfect cocktail can be replaced with a really delicious, awesome alternative, which is instead of perfectionism and self-judgment, we have excellence in learning. So I hope that this helps, because I want you to know that what I'm expressing here is deep learning for myself. What I've been through over the last 22 years, especially the first 3 or 4, was absolutely traumatic for me. The idea that I wanted to be perfect, that I wanted to have a good reputation, that I wanted people to like me, that I wanted my treatments to look amazing, that I wanted to impress other people, that I wanted to make sure I wasn't falling behind my compadres, my colleagues, my contemporaries. And it really drove me into a place of burnout. It drove me into a place of real unhappiness. And maybe you're there right now. And if so, I'm speaking directly to you. Replace all of that. You got here because you worked really hard, and you worked really hard because you wanted it. You wanted to help other people. You wanted to generate a really good living. And so ultimately what I'm saying to you today is take that perfectionism and put it in a drawer. It's a memory. Replace it with this beautiful way of living in excellence in everything that you do. My friend Christian Pavel says, excellence is like this, right? The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So do every one thing that you do in excellence, and you will live in excellence. And then when you need to judge, which is positive, right? It's the way that we police everything that we're doing, our conversations, our procedures, our interactions, right? Then just take what you can from those judgments as learning, as growth, as opportunity, as opposed to putting yourself down, punishing yourself, telling yourself you're not good enough or not worthy. So let's replace the imperfect cocktail with a really smooth drinking, great cocktail, and we'll call it the excellence of learning. And so I wish you the best. Thank you for being a part of this community. If you have ideas, if you have subjects that you'd like me to cover, guests that you'd love to hear interviewed, just reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. And as always, just know that you are worthy. You're doing a great job. And when you're really feeling frustrated with where you are today, think of where you were before and realize that today was the dream and you made it. So let's keep dreaming bigger and bigger, and let's live in excellence. Have a great day, and thanks for joining.